If you asked 5 of the earliest Christians who Jesus was, you'd get 5 different answers, and some of them would be shocked by what the others said. Sufferer, lawgiver, martyr, mystic, God, 5 Gospels, 5 radically different portraits. So which one is the real Jesus? The answer shaped the next 2,000 years of history. This is Christology, the study of who Jesus is, his nature, his role, his relationship to God. Let's meet each of these Jesuses, starting with the earliest gospel we have, Mark, written around 70 CE. Mark's Jesus is the suffering Redeemer. Mark faces a problem. How can the Messiah die on a Roman cross? His answer, that was the whole point. Mark 10:45, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. That word, ransom, is doing heavy theological work. It means Jesus' death isn't a tragedy, it's a transaction, a payment that frees humanity from sin. This is ransom theology, and it becomes one of Christianity's most influential ideas. Now, Matthew copies large portions of Mark, but adds a distinctive layer. Matthew's Jesus is the new Moses. He ascends a mountain to deliver the Sermon on the Mount, deliberately echoing Moses receiving the law on Sinai. He doesn't abolish the Jewish law, he authoritatively reinterprets it. You have heard it said, but I say to you. Matthew keeps Mark's ransom theology, but his emphasis is different. Jesus is teacher and lawgiver first. His death matters, but his teachings define the community. 2 Gospels down. Both include atonement. Now watch what happens with Luke. Luke copies Mark extensively. Scholars can track passage after passage where Luke follows Mark's text closely. But when Luke reaches Mark 10:45, the ransom verse, the theological core of Mark's understanding of Jesus' death, he cuts it. Gone. In its place, Luke 22:27, I'm among you as one who serves. No ransom, no cosmic transaction, atonement, and the idea that Jesus' death paid a debt or removed sin on behalf of humanity is absent from Luke's gospel. For Luke, Jesus is a righteous martyr prophet. His death is an example of faithfulness under persecution, not a payment for sin. Luke proves this by modeling Stephen's death in Acts 7 directly on Jesus' death. Same forgiveness of enemies, same commending of the Spirit. Stephen dies like Jesus because for Luke, that's the point. Imitate him. Now, something entirely different. The Gospel of Thomas, no birth story, no miracles, no arrest, no trial, no crucifixion, no resurrection, none of it. Thomas is 114 sayings attributed to Jesus and nothing else. Compare that to a canonical gospel structure. Birth, ministry, miracles, teachings, arrest, death, resurrection. Thomas strips all of that away. What's left is a Jesus who is a revealer of hidden knowledge. The opening line, whoever finds the meaning of these sayings will not taste death. Salvation here isn't about Jesus dying for you. It's about understanding what he said. These aren't 4 camera angles on the same event. There are 4 different arguments about what the event meant. The 5th portrait, John. And John goes further than any of them. John opens not with a birth, but with creation itself. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Jesus isn't a human elevated by God. He is God, co-equal with the Father from eternity. John's Jesus makes I am statements that would have stunned any first-century Jewish audience. Before Abraham was, I am. That phrase, I am, is not casual. In Exodus 3:14, when Moses asks God's name at the burning bush, God answers, I am who I am. John's Jesus claims the divine name. He is identifying himself as the God of Israel. Full stop. So we have 5 portraits. But here's where it gets interesting. What's missing from some of them changes everything. Let's talk about what Jesus died for your sins meant in the earliest period. The idea that Jesus died for your sins, often assumed to be the bedrock of Christianity, is absent from 2 of our 5 texts. Luke deliberately removed it. Thomas doesn't include a death at all. This wasn't a minor disagreement. It was a fundamental divide about what Jesus' death meant, or whether it mattered theologically. And the diversity runs deeper than atonement. These Gospels disagree about Jesus' nature itself. Picture a spectrum. On one end, Jesus as a human elevated by God. Scholars call this adoptionism. On the other end, Jesus as God from eternity who merely appeared human. That's docetism. Mark and Luke sit closer to the human end. Matthew occupies the middle. Thomas floats in a unique mystical space, and John sits firmly at the divine end. For nearly 300 years, Christians debated where on this spectrum the truth lay. By the early 300s, these competing visions had produced a real institutional crisis. The Arian controversy asked the sharpest possible version of the question, was Jesus created by God or co-eternal with God? Emperor Constantine, not a theologian but a political leader who needed religious unity across his empire, convened the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE. The result was the Nicene Creed, a formal statement of belief. Its key language, very God from very God, God from God, light from light, begotten, not made. Every phrase is designed to slam the door on the idea that Jesus became divine. He always was. And then this language maps almost perfectly onto John's Gospel. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. I and the Father are one. Before Abraham was, I am. The Creed didn't summarize what all Christians believed. It chose John's Jesus. So, what do you do with all this? Here's a framework you can use every time you pick up one of these texts. Ask 3 questions. First, is Jesus human, divine, or both? Mark says both, but emphasizes the human suffering. John says fully God. Thomas says divine revealer. Second, does his death matter theologically? Mark and John say yes. Luke says no. It's an example, not a transaction. Thomas doesn't even include one. Third, what is the reader supposed to do? Mark says have faith through suffering. Matthew says follow the law as Jesus interprets it. Luke says imitate his faithfulness. Thomas says seek hidden knowledge. John says believe in him as God. Same figure, 5 completely different programs. The Nicene Creed is still recited in Catholic, Orthodox, Anglican, and many Protestant churches every Sunday. Most churchgoers don't realize they're reciting a document that chose John's Jesus over Mark's, Luke's, or Thomas's. That's not a criticism, right? It's history. Understanding transforms how you read the New Testament, not as a single voice delivering one message, but as a debate. Multiple communities, multiple theologies arguing over the most consequential question in their world. Who was this man and what did his life and death mean? For nearly 300 years, there wasn't one Christianity, there were many. The question wasn't just who was Jesus, it was which Jesus would win. John's did. And that decision echoes every time the creed is spoken.